Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and today on the podcast, reasons that you should be thinking about automation in your coffee business now. Today, before we get started, please consider subscribing to this podcast wherever you are, either listening to it or watching it. And thanks to our episode sponsor, the Global Coffee Town Hall that's coming up in October. Please check the show notes for links and consider pre-registering for this fabulous event that is an open forum discussion in 4 different languages around the question, what needs to change in the coffee industry in 2021 and beyond. And we are welcoming people from across the entire supply chain to be involved in this discussion. So, automation in coffee. This is something I've been interested in for a number of years now, and I have believed that this would be something that our industry needed to pivot to eventually. The pandemic has fast-tracked that. If you are of the opinion that the current cafe model will stand the test of time, I could understand why you would hope that that would be the case. But you no doubt are all aware that we are in a pretty severe labor shortage situation. And I've spoken about this before, but I do want to reiterate this. There was a natural experiment that happened across America in June or July of this year, whereby of the country, 50% had the stimulus checks, the government-funded stimulus checks taken away, and 50% had kept them. And so this formed as a natural experiment that economists were tracking. And what they found, what they wanted to check was, if we remove the stimulus checks, would this make more people come back to work? Or would this keep them away? And what they found was that the difference between the two cohorts was negligible. It was negligible by, I think, 3%, which in the context of the experiment was nothing. And what this says is that idea that, we should stop paying people to stay home because it's what's keeping them away from working is a fallacy, as far as the experiment has tracked anyway. And what this suggests is that long term, we could expect that people in hospitality, across hospitality, not just in the coffee industry, but across hospitality, we will see a very challenging time trying to attract people back to those positions. And this is where automation could be a lifeline to businesses who are really struggling to attract people back to their business. Automation is the opportunity to cultivate coffee professionals who are more focused on the coffee side of things. So understanding more about achieving the quality in the cup as opposed to the manual labor behind making the cup happen. There are also people who are focused on understanding the supply chain, customer service, sales, the customer experience. All of these things are what our coffee professionals should be focusing on in the cafe, as opposed to the manual labor that is behind producing the cup, especially when equipment could do it more consistently than what a human could. Now, you may have seen an episode on the podcast that I had with Sebastian Vibe Peterson. He is with Scanomat. They have machines that are predominantly in the corporate sector and in hotels. And they are moving more towards producing machines for the cafe environment. This is not an ad for them. They are not a sponsor of the podcast. But I mention that because there are opportunities for cafes to enter that market. And in that conversation, we spoke about in depth the conversation around why automation doesn't replace the barista. It enhances what the barista should be doing and what the barista frees them up to do. I equally had a conversation about this with Kamal Ben Gugum from Eversys in last year. So think about it, please. Consider the idea that if you are struggling, and I know there are so many cafes that have to close 1 or 2 days a week or reduce their hours 3 or 4 hours a day because they can't find staff. Leaning into automation allows you the opportunity to get back to full-time operation quickly, and especially in a labour shortage market that we foresee not being over anytime soon. Certainly not in these economic climates. If anything, it could probably get worse. So it's something to consider, something to think about. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below or on our social media. And please consider subscribing. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.